Hello, my name is Jennifer Dos Santos, and I'd like to tell you a bit about our home, about its beauty and the dangers we have put it in. The world we live in, planet Earth, has very much to offer, much of which is quite beautiful. Unfortunately, the human race has done much to take away many of the unparalleled beauties that once surrounded us. Approximately 71% of Earth's surface is covered by water. Our oceans hold about 96.5% of all the Earth's water. However, water also exists in the air as water vapor, in rivers and lakes, in ice caps and glaciers, in the ground as soil moisture, in aquifers, even in you and your dog. With water making up most of our existence, it is very obvious how vital it is to our way of life. Unfortunately, though obvious, many of us have taken our resources for granted. Let me show you what I mean as we navigate the unfortunate truths about water pollution and how it affects the environment. Water pollution is a problem that is currently being faced worldwide. It is defined as the contamination of water bodies, including rivers, oceans, lakes, streams, aquifers, and groundwater. Contamination occurs when harmful materials like chemicals, waste matter, or contaminated substances are directly or indirectly discharged into water bodies. The effects of water pollution on our ecosystem affects every level, from the water we drink to our crops, animals, and of course, our oceans. The effects of water being polluted have several consequences, which depend on which chemicals or contaminants are being dumped and in which locations they are being dumped in. Urban areas such as cities and towns tend to be highly polluted due to the garbage being dumped by individuals as well as the numerous chemicals that are being dumped, both legally and illegally, by manufacturing industries, health centers, schools, and marketplaces. There are many different types of water pollutants, which all have different levels of severity. Pollution in the water can come from heavy metals, industrial waste, microbial pollutants, organic matter, sulfate particles, and suspended particles. The polluted water all over the world is not only killing the human population, but it is causing hazardous effects on our ecosystem, killing animal life, plants, and crops. Each pollutant has causes, of which are most human-made. For example, the heavy metal pollutants come from industrial processes which can accumulate in nearby lakes and rivers. These are toxic to marine life, such as fish and shellfish, and can affect the rest of the food chain. This means that entire animal communities can be badly affected by this type of pollutant. The biggest causes of water pollution come down to industrial waste, oil spills, sewage and wastewater, lake, ocean, and marine dumping, underground storage and leakages, pesticides and fertilizer, leaking landfills, and animal waste. 7 out of the 8 most harmful substances to our water pollution are caused by the human population. There is no easy way to solve the problem, otherwise it would not be one. One of the biggest issues is the transboundary nature of the water itself. Many rivers worldwide can cross through several countries while others can span entire continents. So if one country has poor environmental standards, it can cause havoc in neighboring countries that can have tougher laws and higher standards for the environment. Many countries have implemented laws to make it tougher for people to pollute. However, in order for these laws to be as effective as we want them to be, they have to work across national and international borders. There are international laws governing the oceans. For example, the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of Sea, which is signed by over 120 nations. Most countries also have their own laws against water pollution. For example, here in the U.S., there is the 1972 Clean Water Act and the 1974 Safe Drinking Water Act. The Clean Water Act established the basic structure for the regulating of pollutant discharges into the waters of the United States, as it gave the EPA the authority to implement pollution control programs such as setting wastewater standards for the industry. Other solutions to our water pollution have been proposed. Many environmental experts feel that the best way to take on the water pollution problems is by something they call the polluter pays principle. By this they mean whoever causes pollution should have to pay to clean it up one way or another. With this proposed solution, there are many angles in which it can be approached. One example is tanker companies that haul oil can take out special insurance to cover cleanups if there is an oil spill. Or something that is being implemented in Ireland is having customers pay for their plastic bags, which would encourage recycling in order to minimize waste. The problem now is that many of the laws in place have not been updated in decades. While in some places, like the US, there have been improvements with the laws in place, we still have ways to go, and the laws need to catch up to the 21st century. The Clean Water Act here in the US has not been amended in 28 years. In this time, our country has grown by almost 80 million people. It has developed concentrated manure producing dairy, livestock, and poultry production factories, invested inadequate amounts in aging and undersized sewage treatment plants, and watched indifferently as flood of polluted stormwater washed off the tens of millions of hectares of paved suburbs that the country constructed in what had been farm and forested rural areas. The amount of changes that have happened in almost 3 decades is something that the lawmakers in the 70s could not possibly anticipate. We have to readjust to the realities of our current situation in order to make any progress in fixing the situation which the human species alone has created. Many times, people disregard the problems we face because they don't see it on a daily basis. Even with my dynamic deliverable presentation, though I showed areas where many would consider vacationing, most countries which make the most money off of tourism hide the depravity that is the water pollution seen here. At the moment, those most affected by water pollution are third world countries and small towns and villages that can't afford to fix or hide the problem. However, while we may not see it every day, the problem is there. It may take more time to show up closer to home, but it exists and it affects everyone and everything. Water is one of the most important parts of life. I have lived in different states and have seen different in beaches and lakes. I would like to be able to take my kids to a beach where there isn't garbage in the water, where they can walk on the sand without the fear of being injured. I would like to travel to other countries without having to worry about the water will do to my body. Water affects all of our lives, and we need to do something now so that our kids can have a better future.